All right, I'm going to go ahead and start this webinar. I had to do a redo on the recording because the Skype did not work, so for now on we're probably going to just use Adobe Connect until I figure out Skype. This session was previously completed on the 15th of August, and so I'm just going to redo and kind of go over those steps so we can review these through the video. Topics today we're going to cover are going to be current production and training defects that have actually now been fixed. So those things that are coming on, one of them have been fixed, the other one has not. Then we're also going to go through the lesson manual 2.2, lesson plan 9 through 12. So we're going to go import plan LAN units, digitize some LAN units, and then view those attributes, and then learn how the selecting tool works. And then I also asked a question in our webinar how we're using CD. Hopefully everybody can just think about that, how we're using it. Hopefully we are. And starting to integrate this into our daily routines so that we can, when 2.3, the toolkit replacement comes out, that we're able to fully be able to adopt it and be able to work smoothly and transition smoothly into Conservation Desktop. As a reminder, we have our desktop cadre. They're very talented people that have worked very hard to understand the toolkit and Conservation Desktop, and so I encourage you to reach out to them if you have any questions or issues. Of course, reach out to myself or Jerry Coral, but if we're not available, please make sure you reach out to them. They'll most likely be able to solve your problems as well. If they can obviously pass that on up to myself or Jerry. So there's the division reps right there. So current defect in the release, on the 15th there was a defect that we couldn't create a case file in all environments. That has been fixed now. It was fixed starting Friday. Another defect that we do currently still have is a slide on the table of contents. I've been notified by the support team that this has been fixed in their version of deployment, but currently in 2.2, this still does not work. So as you see in this GIF, as I slide the table of contents open, it looks like there's no table of contents that have been loaded, but if I just click once, it will expand it and load the table of contents correctly, as well as if I just click on it once to collapse it. So this is going to go back and forth all the time when we go into the different dialogues between editing land units and editing practices. So just get used to clicking it once on that ribbon over there to open it, and don't click and drag. But eventually what I've been told is that has currently been fixed in their quality assurance version of 2.3. So now I'm going to take a break here from the slideshow and go into the demo of lessons plans 9 through 12. At this time I do want to remind anyone who does not have a lesson plan manual for 2.2, if they'd like one, I do have some here at the state office that I can mail to you, to ship to you. If you are close to an area office, or if the area office still continues to have a little stash, they do have like 5 or so per area office, so reach out to them as well. If they've got one, you may be able to grab one there when you're in the area office for a meeting or whatever it may be. All right, so let's go into the demo. I'm going to go into Conservation Desktop training version. I'm going to just jump into my link. If you're interested in setting up your favorites link, go ahead and go to the prior webinar and look at that. I will also show everyone where these webinars are being housed, so you can go back and rewatch them if you have a question on certain questions relating to these. But I'm just going to go into the training version. In order for us to import planned LAN units, I do have to have a current case file selected and loaded into my table of contents. So I'm going to go grab that right now, and in my table of contents, 95% of the time we're always going to use this magnifying glass. When I go into an existing conservation client, Configuration Desktop client, Adam Smith. I know that this already has a small LAN unit. It may have a few LAN units in there as I've been playing around. Typically, we are building upon what other clients or other planners have already completed. And sometimes we are starting from fresh. So if we are starting from fresh, go through the first webinar. We talked about creating a case file, and then everything would tie into here. I'll take some time here to note that over on this left in my table of contents, there's this master plan that's automatically been loaded. If a case file has one conservation plan, that case file or that conservation plan will be loaded automatically into our table of contents. If the case file has multiple conservation plans, then no conservation plan will be selected, and the user would have to go to Open Practice Schedule to get the conservation plan to open. The conservation plan, as you can see, we've been automatically default zoomed into the conservation plan that's been selected. If I hit my home button, I'm going to be brought back to that home, to the practice schedule POUs. If I want to see the case POUs that are tied to this case file, then I would need to zoom out, obviously, to that area. For now, I'm just going to go and close this conservation plan just so we don't have to see these layers. So the way I do that is go over to the left, click on the conservation plan panel, and then come down here to close practice schedule. Everything, Conservation Desktop will refresh, and we will be brought back to just the case PLU zoom. Okay, so now we're ready to go into lesson plan 9. And I'm going to go into, once you're zoomed into an area that you need, I'm going to cover this in some later webinars, but you can use the Find tool, which is the binoculars here. And you can use whatever layer is on, you can search by using it. For the track layer, you can search CLU. You can search by an address. If you get an address, you can change your county, wherever you're at. You can do a Latin long to kind of put your position where you need to be. So know your area that you want to add your fields in, or your land units in. You can zoom into those. So I'm gonna bring in this pivot area right here. You do want to make sure that your case PLU is available. You don't necessarily have to have it on at this time. You can. The user would then come into this Create Edit PLUs in the case file panel of the table of contents. Left click on it, just open it up. And then the active PLU layers will automatically come on. So as we see, this actually won't work because there's already an active PLU layer on that field. So we're going to come up here on this one. So what I did is I just collapsed my PLU land unit attribute table here, and I'm going to come up to my import button, and my layer I'm going to select is my CLU layer. And in this first example, I'm going to use the search by a track number. So I believe that this participant's actually in Butte County. And so I'm going to go in here and search for track 79 and click Find. And Conservation Desktop will then go look for the fields in that county, or that track number in there, and then zoom in and highlight the area that is within that tract. You can search for multiple tracts by placing a comma in between. We'll do tract 222, it might be a big one. So there we can see that there are 15 fields in this feature. We can click OK. I don't really want 222 to come in, so I'm just going to go back to, well, it looks like I hit the button already. So what I can do, though, is come here and with the CLU, when we import from the CLU, the user can save this and not have to update any attributes. The crop land use will automatically default, and the acre program acres will automatically default to the CLU. So that's what I'm going to do, just because I don't need to change any of these attributes. If you do need to change them, obviously you can just change them here. I'm going to jump ahead here, and I'm actually going to delete track 222, the entire thing. So over on my left here in my land units, I can click on that whole tract. It will highlight. I'm showing you a little teaser on the selecting ability of Concentration Desktop. And then I'll click delete and click OK, saying that I'm sure I want to remove those. Concentration Desktop will then put a strike through, noting that there's been a change that hasn't been saved. Once I save those, that track 222 will then disappear. Okay, as we see here now, track 222 is gone from our case PLUs. So the other way that we can import a land unit is by selecting on the map once we've clicked the import button. So I'm going to go back to my import. I'm going to select which layer. I'm going to select CLU. I don't know if everyone noticed, but as I clicked CLU on my source layer, that's when the CLU layer opened up or turned on, and it will stay on until it's turned back off in map contents. But you don't have to have the CLU layer on before you go in and start your edit PLU. So I like that feature they built in. You don't have to set your county and state when you're zoomed in and you use the selection on the map. So I'm just going to select this half pivot here, and then it tells me that I have one feature selected. I'll click OK. It automatically brings in our land unit into a sketch mode. And at this time, then we can select down here and change. We're going to change it to land unit 1, and it's going to be pasture grazed, and then we'll save. And you can do multiple at a time before you hit that save. I'd say just make sure and get familiar with that. I really like this the ability of having the land units attributed and added at the same time in the same dialog. We don't have to open our Carlos Jr. star and then open the attribute tool as well. It definitely goes a little quicker. All right, so now I'm going to digitize a planned land unit. So this is lesson plan 10 in the 2.2 manual. And I'm going to collapse my edit dialog there. I'm going to come up here to my PLU edit toolbar and click on draw. We can either do it digitize land units through a multi-sided polygon or through a circle. So I'm going to come over to my map contents actually and shut off my CLU layer just because I don't really care to see it right now. I'm going to go in and I'm first going to draw this circle. So in drawing a circle, the way we do it is we click and drag. So I'm going to click here in the center and then drag to my outside. What we're going to notice is that down here, it's overlapping, and it's also overlapping over on this side. So as I do draw that, because I want to capture the entire area there, the tool will snap to those lines. So I just let go of my mouse, and as you see, my field now comes to this line of the planned land unit, and then also cuts off here where this is also planned. I really like that auto completes. With a digitized land unit, as you see, the land unit comes in with no attributes at all. So I'm going to assign it track. We'll just say it's in track 79, and we can then see what land unit maybe would be next. So we would say land unit 11. We're going to say it's crop irrigated, and then save. And we're going to be able to bring that in as a planned land unit there. So now on to multi-sided polygon. Let's bring in this rectangle type square field here. So I'm going to go up here to my draw tools, come back down, select on the multi-sided polygon, and we'll just start drawing in by just clicking once. I will show that also with the control key we snap to the active PLU layer and also to the case PLU layer. And as you release that, it releases the snap. So we're going to snap in. You can also draw over this boundary if you want to snap to that line, or have Conservation Desktop snap to that line just like the circle one did. I'm just going to complete my polygon here. And as I double click to complete, and I made a little mistake here on this corner, but you can see that the land unit is now snapped to that active PLU layer. It wasn't cut out here all goofy. Let me add this in because it's going to drive me crazy. I'm just going to draw in a little triangle right there, and then I'm going to select both of these land units. Actually, I can't do that when they're in sketch mode. So we'll assign these track 79, field 12, and track 79, field 13. Now I'll save these. Now if I select field 12 and 13 under track 79, I can then come up here and see that now that I have multiple fields selected, I can click merge. We're going to merge that all field 12, click OK. And a merge cannot be undone. So we give a warning message to make sure that we really want to do this. Clicking no would have reverted back to the original version, and obviously clicking yes merged it. So that is digitizing land units. I also want to show this nice feature in Conservation Desktop when you have an island within a field. That island could be area that you want to cut out, or if you want to call it a different kind of area that's going to be managed differently. However, so we come up here to our draw tool, click on polygon. Let's say we've got this area right here it's just a lava outcrop. So I'm just going to start digitizing inside the polygon. And as I double click to complete, Conservation Desktop basically is taking like a cookie cutter cut out of this. And we can either decide what we want to do with this land unit. It gets assigned the same track number as the original land unit that it was being cut out of. But I'm just going to delete it because this isn't going to be any part of anything. And now once we load it in there, whoops, I don't want to just complete my sketch here so that it goes away. As we can see, this area now is cut out of the field. As I select save, this land unit will then come back planned. Conservation Desktop does let us know that the land unit area has changed to make sure that we did want to make that change and maybe need to change any other practices that are associated with it if needed. But as you can see, this area now is not covered in that area. So if you have like a pond maybe that we need to cut out, or like I said, lava outcrop, we can delete that field out of there. Okay, so really quick, I'm going to show some flexibility here. I'm going to come over here and close our dialog for editing. I'm going to go into Lesson Plan 11 to view and edit attributes to the plan land unit. So as we see, I'm going to close out of this stuff here to get it out of my way. Click home, bounce back to all of this over here. I'm going to come down here to my tables. You can see we have an active PLU table and also a case PLU table, and if we click Show Tables, we can then see all of this information. We are in track 79, so I'm going to come here and sort this ascending so then we can kind of see just this track 79. We're going to edit an attribute of this field 3. So field 3 is just this little corner. We can see that it's labeling it as crop land use. We're going to change that, and we're also going to add a name to it. So field 3, we're going to change this to associated ag land. We're going to have the name be southwest corner. Okay, southwest corner. And then we will hit save and close. As you can see, the land unit or land use changed to associated ag land. Over on this top right of the table, there's this plus button. As the user clicks on the plus button, we can then click on the PLU name to bring in additional attributes that we want to see in our table. There's a list of them here that we could use. We're just going to see this one. We can turn any of the other ones off, and as I clicked on that and opened up to show that in the table, we can see that southwest corner name showed up. I find this useful when somebody says this is the Jones's property, and that's what they call it because that's who they purchased it from many years ago. You can then label on your maps according to that PLU name. I think that'll be useful for clients and producers because a lot of times these track numbers and field numbers are just associated to FSA, and they're not really names that are familiar to the client. So putting a little personality into these names will definitely be nice. As you can see, we changed that attribute here. I'm going to go show again that we can do the same thing underneath the case file panel in the Create Edit PLUs dialog. So I'm going to select land unit 3 and just show what we have here. So this is where that land unit name came in. So if we wanted to put land unit 2, we could name it south pivot. And then that information will be there as well. So multiple ways that we can edit those attributes. We can also do bulk changes. So we have track 79, and let's say that this track had changed land unit numbers, got a recon from FSA, whatever it may be, changed ownership, and they changed track number. We can change it to track 2000, click save, and then we can see the asterisk comes up while it loads, and we can see that now that is all land unit or track 2000, and it shows up there, southwest corner, everything all comes through. We can do these bulk editings. Bulk is the hot word for Conservation Desktop 2.2, where we can do a lot of bulk editing and bulk attributing, and it's very, very handy, very nice. So now we're going to go into lesson plan 12, selecting PLUs. As you notice that I have land unit 3 selected in my table, or in my dialog here. It is also selected here on the map. We can click zoom to, kind of brings us in. We can be cautious though when you do have your land units and you zoom in, they're small land units, you hit zoom to, your aerial imagery will go away if it's zoomed in to a certain zoom. So you might just want to zoom out just a little bit so you still can see that area. I know that they're talking about taking that out because there are some really small practices that we do, and so having the ability to see that zoomed in as far as we possibly can without, even though it's blurry or it's pixelated, it still would build, we can still build practices off of that. So I know they're talking about taking that away, that shutting it off when it zooms in so close. But as I select here in the dialog, it selects on the map. If I select on the map, it selects in the dialog. So it's interchangeable. I can click, if I use my select tool and I click and drag, I can then select these and use shift to select all of them, or If I want to select one, I can select one, or if I hit Control, I could select every other or any combination of whatever we want. And then those will be selected in our dialog. Very handy. I like that. Same thing in our table. You can see that those are highlighted, which ones I have selected. So if I select one of these, you can also go here to the table and hit Zoom to Selected. You can also export to a CSV, so you can sort through this information if you'd like to kind of do some review. But as we select in the table, on the map, or in the dialog, all three talk to each other. So you can see that this track 1000 field 4 shows up in the dialog, on the map, and in the table. Very handy, useful stuff there. We're not going to get into land unit editing. I plan on doing that here in a week or so. We'll go over land unit editing. But that's that for now. I like the importing and land unit adding. I like being able to add it with digitizing or importing. And eventually in 2.3 we'll be able to import using a GPS file for your land unit boundaries, as well as your practices. So I know a lot of range times we're out there in the range and we GPS the fence lines and we want to make those with land units. In 2.3 we'll be able to do that. That's working just fine and just great in my testing environment. So let me bounce back, or let me go to the SharePoint site, and I will show you where these recordings are being housed for anyone who wants to go back and watch the one that we did a few weeks ago. So I'm going to go to the Idaho SharePoint, log in with my USDA email. Once my SharePoint comes back, I will be able to go into Tech Services over on the left. Once I'm into Tech Services, I can come over here on the left and click on Training Library. I know a lot of people use the Control Find feature in websites and on this training library because it is so big. I will throw out the mention that these are all sorted alphabetically, so agronomy and soils at the top, biology, and then conservation desktop. As you scroll down through the conservation desktop guidance documents and training documents, you can see that here's the lesson plans for PDF, here's the YouTube trainings that national headquarters put out, and here's where the Idaho teleconferences are. This is just a Word document with YouTube links that are posted there. And then just as well, here's the training and production version links. That's where that is all kept. I'm going to bounce back to my slideshow now. So goals for this next week and until the next teleconference, I hope that everyone can go in and import a land unit, digitize a land unit, if they're doing it in the training version or if they're doing it in production. My idea is go into production and use it as much as you can to replace part of your workload that you're doing in Toolkit. And then also play with the viewing and editing of land unit attributes, and then use the selection of land units with both the table, create, edit, PLU dialog, and the map as well. So use that interchangeably and figure out what method works best for you, or maybe what instances you would use those in. And then when I asked the question to the group that did come participate, is how people were using it. I know Dean Smith mentioned that he was using it to import land units. I know Treg has used it a little bit to make some conservation plans. Mary Jennings has been using it. Paula Johnson's been playing in it to do their CSP GCI contracts. So I know that lots of people have been using it lately. People have been asking me questions and wanting help. Please continue to reach out. I want to know what questions you have and what you're currently doing, and if we have any problems. I know Laren he was the one who helped me kind of figure out the issue with the table of contents. Dean also mentioned that one, and then Alex Arnold and Clayton Murdoch helped me figure out the creating a case file issue I believe that was, we were some of the first people to kind of say that this was an issue. So thank you for you guys helping us figure that out, and they were able to push that emergency build out for desktop. But if you see anything that looks a little goofy, don't get frustrated. Give us a call, send me an email. Let's try and work through some things. I hope we can really use Conservation Desktop. I think that's all that I have for today. If you have any questions, please continue to reach out to me through my email or give me a call, whatever. I'll get back to you when I can. I am pretty busy with testing right now for 2.3, but this is my top priority and top focus. So please let me know when you have any issues or problems and questions, and we'll go ahead. I think our next webinar, I'll send out another calendar invite and also post those recordings in the same spot. Thank you again for watching today, and if you have any questions, let me know.